Minister, for well over 10 years or more, the wastewater treatment plant in Clonacrisha in Crossbarry, it's been malfunctioning and causing huge difficulty for locals. As far back as 2016, the plant was one of only a half dozen that the Department of Environment were advancing through a pilot scheme for resolving defective developer-led infrastructure. And unfortunately, Crossbarry was the only village in that original pilot scheme that didn't advance to construction. A new resolution programme was developed based around the pilot, and that was to resolve issues with defective developer-led infrastructure, such as in Crossbarry. And again, Cork County Council put forward the Clonacrisha plant to be dealt with, and that was part of the department's new scheme. Unfortunately, we've seen the back and forth again, questions and answers over the last number of years, and it's very frustrating for locals not seeing Crossbarry Wastewater Treatment Plant being repaired. There's many smaller plants advanced to the department's programme and overtaking them, and more look to them. They were needed. So too is Crossbarry and Clonacrisha. And it's been very difficult for residents who've had to put up with blocked sewers, foul smells, overflows that the council have to repeatedly come and clean up. Very unfair on locals, and they really need to get it resolved. And householders, they're concerned, they want to see a pathway to solving the issue, and so that they can move on with their lives and know that this defective treatment plant at the end of the village is going to be fixed. Resolving the plant in Clonacrisha and linking it to the other defective plants in the village, it has so many benefits. There's the obvious environmental benefit in repairing the plant and improving water quality, but also there's the demand for housing, as you can imagine, locally. Crossbarry's a desirable place to live, easy access to Cork, Bandon, nearby work in Brinny, for example, and good schools and a really strong community spirit in Crossbarry, and such an attractive place to live. There's zoned lands in the village, but in the absence of the treatment plant, it's just not accessible. And that's not just a nuisance on its own. A huge struggle for locals getting housing. They've been on to me about getting planning permission for one-off houses or even sewer connections in the absence of this plant. So repairing the defective plant and linking it up to the other malfunctioning plants around the village, it just makes so much sense. Unlocking the opportunity and removing the big nuisance and improving water quality. Now, we've seen similar plants advance, and they plugged into the Irish Water Network and removed the temporary plants, whereas Crossbarry, it's a much larger scheme, and it could be the destination for all of the other plants in the village, linking in the likes of Lissagroom Meadows and others, homes and businesses, for example, and unlocking the zoned ground. And some of that infrastructure is already in the ground even. So over the years, I've been in constant contact with Cork County Council as they're trying to deal with the Department of the Environment and to a lesser extent with Irish Water in advancing Crossbarry. And time and again, the Council will be asked the same questions over and again, and they've been very forthcoming with answers. There's no questions now for some months, and the Department of Environment, their expert group, they should have all the data that's needed to make a positive decision on it. So, Minister, recall, when the Department of Environment put in place a programme in 2018-2019, it was based on the lessons that were learned from the pilot. Despite that, Crossbarry still doesn't appear to have advanced. How could that be? How come Crossbarry has been left so long? And now, Minister, what can be done to get this malfunctioning plant sorted and get rid of the nuisance and give locals in Crossbarry a chance to get on with their lives?
A small number of housing estates naturally rely on developer-provided water service infrastructure, commonly referred to, as you said, DPI, for their water services. The infrastructure concerned mainly consists of wastewater treatment facilities, with a small number providing drinking water services for the estate. The majority of estates with DPI are legacy issues from the mid-1990s and the mid-2000s, and the infrastructure was generally provided by the developer of the estate and is not connected into the public water network of Ishcairn. It is important to say that DPI are privately owned, with many coming to the end of their useful life. The Department provides funding to progressively resolve these legacy issues through the multi-annual Developer-Provided Water Services Infrastructure Resolution Programme. The purpose of the programme is to progressively resolve the DPI in estates such as Glenawan, Clonacrosha, Coolnagrena, Lissagroom, Meadows and Crossbarry. It's worth noting that the type of estates involved are not all the same, and there are different solutions required to resolve the DPI issues involved. The housing estates range from ones located in towns, where the solution is to connect directly to the Ishguern network, while other estates are in remote locations where connecting to the public network may not be possible, and solutions can be considerably more complex, as you'll appreciate. The funding allocation to date under the programme has been to estates where the resolution is to connect to the public network. The Minister has also announced a number of demonstration projects, including one in Crossbarry, where the locations are remote from the public network. At present, Crossbarry does not have a public collection and central waste water treatment system. Instead, wastewater from the 4 housing estates in the village is collected and treated in separate developer-provided infrastructure. The solution to the DPI issues in Crossbarry is complex in nature, and the options were fully considered by an independent expert panel. The most appropriate resolution is standalone treatment systems, which will also benefit the village. And you pointed out those potential knock-on benefits to the expansion of the village and development generally. I think that's really important. The Department engaged with Ishguern and Cork County Council in developing a solution, including certainty around the cost that would fully resolve the DPI issues in Crossbarry. And the Minister expects to receive a final submission from the panel shortly. He will then be in a position to make an announcement on funding allocations for locations, including for Crossbarry. And on a broader note concerning the resolution of DPI, it is important to say that Ishguern must be fully on board with any proposed solutions, as they will have a responsibility to operate and maintain any new infrastructure when projects are completed.
Thank you, and thank you, Minister, for the response on it. It is positive that the expert group are shortly due to report on it. And we know that from all of the exchanges with Cork County Council that they have been, the Council have been very forthcoming in making responses available. We need that response from the expert panel to be positive and to set out a clear pathway. Nobody's expecting a scheme to appear overnight. There is, as you say, quite a lot of work involved in it. We need that expert group to set out a clear pathway on how they're going to resolve it and a time frame on it, so that residents can get on with their lives. Big concern is that the expert group will come back again with further questions, and I think that would be unreasonable at this point, given that they've been so much back and forth over a number of years. And recall, this scheme was designed around the lessons that were learned from the original pilot, where Crossbarry was the only one that didn't advance. So it should be suited to Crossbarry's needs. And it's hugely important to get a clear pathway of where things are going from here on it with that response. You refer to Irish Water and the need for having them, how did you put it, the need for having them on board. That's almost code-like for veto. Now, we don't want Irish Water to be stopping this. This needs to happen. Irish Water needs to be on board. We can't have the department saying yes and moving on with it and anybody else getting in the way. Irish Water needs to be on board and should not in any way be a veto on it, and needs to be on board. Get on with it. So we would ask that a clear pathway would be set out for the benefit of the people of Crossbarry.
Yeah, the Deputy is correct, and I think certainly that's what we want to achieve as well, what the Department and what Minister O'Brien and I want to achieve as well in relation to this. And there is a multi-annual programme in place to assist bringing resolution to these DPIs. There were temporary short-term solutions. They certainly dragged on longer than short-term, so I think we are conscious that they do need to be resolved from the point of view of the environmental benefits, the benefits to the communities and to the future development of places such as Crossbarry. We are committed to resolving these issues. Our understanding is that the expert panel will make their final submission on the specific application, and then the Minister will be in a position to make a decision on that. And in relation to Ishguern, It is important, absolutely, that Ishcairn are on board with these proposals, because they do offer a longer-term solution for the estates that we've mentioned, but also for places like Crossbarry that need to develop and need to evolve and need to move on. As I said, these were temporary solutions, and from an environmental point of view, they were far from ideal. So I think it's critically important that they are resolved.